Welcome everybody. First of all, my name is Dean, and I will be the guy that you hear from most of the time with support, like around support things for Cloud. So when you're logging tickets in the help desk, or you're getting emails about site maintenance periods or something, those are generally going to be coming from me. So hi, again, welcome. And so today's session is going to be focused on introducing you to your site, some basic tasks, how to edit things, how to log into your site, log out, and stuff like that. And then a little bit of an introduction to the support materials that we have available for you. And if you need to check on your sound, there should be, well, I guess you wouldn't be able to hear me, that there should be a little phone icon. And for anybody who wants to review this later, or who has to jump off, or whose sound isn't working, I am recording this, and it will be posted on the help desk afterward for y'all to view. So with that, first I'll show you like this. So what I have up on the screen right now is the front page of our help desk. If you've tried to log in, then you've probably seen this. And you should have all received an activation email for the help desk. I believe it was either earlier this week or late last week. I think it was late last week. So when you get that, you can just go to log in, and you can enter the email address that you were signed in with, and that'll take you here. And so there's a couple of different sections in our help desk, and those are going to be the solutions, the forums, and the tickets. So basically, we have the solutions tab will take you to our knowledge base, which is a whole bunch of FAQs and articles about describing how to do stuff in detail. Your forums are just a place you can go to ask general questions. If you think you might have a problem but you're not sure, or if you want to understand something better, you can post here and get information from me and from other users, see what other people are working on. And then tickets, it will allow you to create individual support requests for any problems that you may have. So in the knowledge base, we have an article here, and this should be linked in your activation email that you got. There's a checklist included for configuring your new site, and so this is some of the stuff that I want to go over today. And what these are is just a bunch of tasks, most of them very small, that you might need to do upon receiving your site. So things like if there are additional people at your library who need to be able to access the site that aren't currently users, how to add new ones, and then if you need to set or reset your password, and then changing basic appearance items on your page, like changing the visual theming and the colors, the title that appears on the front page of your site, all this stuff. So each one of these is a link to an article on our help desk that will give you the steps for how to do that. And so rather than walking through the articles, you can read those whenever you want to, I guess. I'll walk you through doing some of these things myself on a test site that I have here. So this is just an internal copy of a site that I have been using to test things out, so it looks a little weird, but we'll use this to demonstrate how to do various things. So the first thing you're going to want to be able to do when you get to your site is to log in. So when you go to your main site, and it'll just be your site name .cloud.net. If you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you'll see a staff login button in the bottom right, and put that there so that visitors to your library don't accidentally try to log into their library card accounts, which when we put it somewhere more prominent, that was happening a lot. So confusing a lot of people. So we're kind of putting it down to the bottom. That's where it is. So, and then it'll pop up a window or a little dialog for you to log in. And so once you log in, you'll see a couple of changes on the display of the page that you're looking at. So one of the things that'll change is that you'll see a button appear, and this will be in slightly different places in different themes. I'll demonstrate that shortly. But it'll have your username in it, and when you click on that, it'll give you a drop-down menu of different things you can do. And so this, if you want to log out, that'll be the last option on this menu here. So that button is one of the things that changes. And then also there's this green editing bar that'll appear in the middle of the page. And you'll see that on, as long as you're logged in and you have like the correct permissions to edit things, you'll see this green bar across the top of every page that you go to in your site. And so this will give you a bunch of options for things that you can do. For instance, so I'm on my home page right now, and so there's a bunch of content that this is just what people will see when they come to my site, and say I want to change something on here. So one of the things that I have the option to do is just click on this edit button. And a lot of this should be familiar from your Plinkett sites. This is a very similar structure. It's built kind of on the same system, just kind of a more updated version of it. You know, I know a lot of this stuff may be familiar, but I just want to go over it in detail for folks that might not be as comfortable with it. So when I click edit, it'll take me to a view that allows me to change the title of my page and then add or change a summary that'll appear in search results. And then in this text box here, I can come down and change any of the content that I want that's actually on that page. And this is so yeah. So and then once I've made any changes that I want to make, I can hit save, and it'll bring me back out of the editing view for that page and back to just viewing it. If I want to add a new page or something, if I want to put something new on my site, then also in this green bar here, there's an Add New button, and if I click that, it'll open a menu of options. And so, for instance, like the home page on my site is a page, and that's a pretty common object. Most of the stuff you'd be adding is going to be in pages, and so you can just go down to Add New, click on Page or Event, News Item, whatever you're looking to add, and it'll bring you back to a page that looks pretty much the same as the one that we were just on when we were editing the page. So same deal, just this is a new one instead of editing the last one. And you know, on top of the title and summary and text, which is all this the main stuff that you care about when you're adding a page, there's also a number of tabs that will allow you a few other options, configuration. So hiding things from the navigation menus, adding a table of contents, adding related items that will appear at the bottom of the page, putting in metadata tags so that you can categorize your content on your page, and then publishing dates and expiration dates. So there's a bunch of other options here that they're a little bit more advanced. You don't really need to worry about them if you're just adding a page, so I won't go over them in detail right now. Anyway, I'm going to cancel out of that by just clicking back to my home page. And so what I clicked on here is a link. We call this a breadcrumb. It'll give you kind of a trail of where you are on your site and allow you to jump back up through different folders. And you can also always get back to your home page by clicking on your site's icon in the top left. All So that's kind of a fast, like, I guess, walking around the perimeter of the functionality here. So again, so some things that you'll want to be able to do. So resetting your password. Let me show you that real quick. So again, if you're logged in and you want to log out, you can click on this button in the top right, go down and click log out, and that'll take you back to the login form. So from here, if you have forgotten your password or you don't have it, then just below the login blinks, you can click on this link here. It says we can send you a new one, and it'll bring you to a form that asks you to put in your username. So to use this one, you have to know your username. Let's see, I believe mine is, I'll use that one. And so when you click this Start Password Reset button, it'll actually send an email to the account that's associated to, or to the email address that's associated to that user account. And when you receive that email, it will include a link that, when you click on it, will take you to a password reset form on your site. So just make sure if you are going to reset your password, just be on the lookout for that email in case like it gets caught by a spam filter or something, which occasionally happens. So I got that email, and I'll click on the link, and it'll take me to my password reset. And so here I can just say, I put in my username again, and then put in my new password. And the slowness that you're seeing here is my internet connection, not the site itself. So I apologize for that. So my password's been reset. So now I can scroll down to the staff login button. And I can use my new password to log in. And if you don't remember your username, there's also a form for that that will email us, and we can help you find your username, and we'll contact you with that information. Okay, took a minute to load its Steam there. So so that's logging in, resetting your password, a few basic things about editing and adding new pages. Other things that you're going to want to do right when you get into your site is that what you'll see is there's going to be a placeholder logo in your top left that'll say Cloud Libraries. We understand that you'll want to change that one to something that is actually related to your library. So to do that, you would click on this button that has your username, and you can go down to the Site Configurations option. And you should all have access to that as part of your user accounts. If you don't, then just contact us and we can fix that. So when you click on that Site Configurations button, it'll bring you to a page that allows you to change a bunch of display settings about this top header section here. So the first thing is the site title, and you want to put something in there because this is a title that's going to be used in like Google search results and stuff. So you want to make sure that your library name is in there and that it's not empty. And by default, it'll show up in the center section of the header here next to the logo. But this site title visible option allows you to choose whether it actually does show up or not. So you have choices for it to show up everywhere on your site. So that would mean that your site title will always be in the middle of your header, or you can set it to never show up, or you can set it to show up only when you're on the front page of your site, or only when you move off of the front page of your site. So you have some options for how that displays that you can play around with. And then there's a couple of options for different fonts, different font sizes, and whether your title is in bold or not. The fonts are fairly limited because these are fonts that are supported kind of broadly by all kinds of different browsers. They're web fonts that are common enough that we know nothing is going to break if you set your title into those. So these first several fields are all about making sure that the title section shows up the way you want it to. Below that, you have a few options regarding images. So the first one is this replace site logo image. And this allows you to just click and go somewhere on your computer and choose a logo that you want to use for your site. And so you can just choose it and hit apply, and it'll upload that image and it'll set it as your logo. So you don't need to worry too much about the size of the image because you can see it'll scale it, but at different sizes of your browser window, it may look different based on what size that image is. So for instance, like when I shrink my browser a little bit and it switches to a different view, you can see this image blows up closer to its original size. Whereas and then if I continue to shrink it down, the image will scale down as well. And if I bring it back to full screen, and it'll pop back. So you may want to be available there. You may want to be aware of the size of your image for that, and also you can play around with dimensions. There's no set dimension that you have to make your logo. We recommend about a 260 pixel by, I think it was 100 pixel image, so something that's wider than it is tall, sort of like this one is. But because the header will scale it, you can use whatever works for you, and it should be able to handle it as long as it's reasonable dimensions. And so the other options on this site configurations page have to do with images that are in the background of the header. So you can see that there's an image of a river in the background here, and there'll be different default ones on your site, like to begin with. But you can change those using these buttons. And they'll work the same way as the site logo image uploader. You just click on the browse button and then select something, and then hit apply, and it'll show up. So you will only see these buttons if you are using a site theme that allows you to set a header image. And so I guess I'll segue from here to how you change your theme. So that's where you set your images if you have a theme that allows them. To set a theme that allows them, you would go up to the button that has your username, click on that, and you'd go to the theme changer option. And this will take you to a page that allows you to, it's loading for a second, so it looks a little funky while it's loading. There we go. So we have a couple of themes available right now, and there will be further options rolled out as we go on. But these are kind of the starters. And so you can activate any theme by just clicking the activate button below it, and so they're fairly similar right now, just because they are starter themes. And as we get more specific requests and as people get used to their sites, we'll start adding adding in options that maybe look a little bit different than these. But so if you want to be able to add a header image, then you'll need to use the Slate theme, which you can see is listed as active on my site. And so once you've chosen a theme, you can also choose a color palette for that theme, and you can do that on this color palettes tab up here. And so when you go to that, you'll see a screen that has a drop down, and you can pick from the different options. And when you click on one, it'll load a preview of it, and you can see still the same theme, but it changes the color of the buttons and selections and stuff. And so I can check those out, see which one I prefer, and then hit apply to save that. And so, as I mentioned, because I'm using the Slate theme, which allows header images, then when I go back to the site configurations page, and you can see that it changed the buttons back to blue. That's something that there's a theme like update caching issue that we're working out right now. So occasionally it doesn't register right away that I've changed the theme. So that's what's happening there. So that is something we're aware of and we're working on. So I have my Slate theme active. I go to my site configurations page, and then I set my header image, and it'll show up in the background here. And so there's two options for that. One is the homepage header image, and the other is the site-wide header image. And so what that means is that when you set this homepage header, that image will only show up when you're on the front page of your site. So you may want to have a different image showing up in the header for your main page. You may want to have the same one. You can see that I've got a slightly different one on the home page than I do in the other pages of my site. But if you want to use the same one, you can just upload the same file for both of these options. The site-wide header image will be the header image for everything that's not the home page. So let's see. So that's resetting passwords, changing your theme, updating your site's title and logo. Okay, your top navigation menu. So across the bottom of your header section, you'll see a bunch of drop-down menus that and these are created from the folders that you have on your site. So the way that you have organized the content on your site will be reflected in the options that you have in this navigation menu. So, and you can see that for instance, like we have this Kids and Teens folder and eShelf and Research, Espanol, News and Events, and About Us, and you can see those same options in this side navigation menu here. And when you click on one of these, it'll open a drop-down menu that will give you a couple options. You'll always have one that will take you to the home page for that folder, and then you'll have options anytime you have another folder within that one. So, for instance, in the Kids and Teens section, there's a section for middle schoolers and a section for high schoolers on this page. So each of those folders will show a menu option here. And you can see, again, in eShelf and Research, there's selected sites and digital exhibits. Those are both folders within there. And so to make something show up on this menu, you would create a folder with that name, and it'll show up. So, and I'll demonstrate that real quick. So if I go back to my home page, and I decide I want to have a folder about, let's see, what do I want to have a folder about? I want to have a folder about science. So I'll click on Add New and select Folder. It'll take you to a page, and I'll say this is my science folder. This is least. And I'll hit save. And so this won't appear on the navigation menu right away. And that's because when I first create it, and this will be the case for most things on your site, it will be created in a private state. And so what that means is that if you're logged in as one of the library staff, you'll be able to see it. But any visitor to the site who is not part of the staff won't be able to. So I want this to be a publicly viewable part of my site. I want it to show up on my navigation menu. So I'm going to click on this button that says private, and I'm going to hit publish. And it'll change from red to blue. And you'll also see this folder show up on the top menu. So, and I haven't put anything in it yet, so it says that. And when I click on this, it'll only give me the option for Science Home. Now, say I want to have folders for different branches of science within this, and I want them to show up on my navigation menu. So I'll, again, while I'm in the Science folder, I'll click Add New and select Folder. And I'll add a folder for a specific kind of science that I like. And I'll hit save to create that. And again, it'll be created in a private state. And so right now, if I click on my sorry about that. Give it a second to load. So you can see that the geology folder that I've created is in a private state. And I believe if I click, so if I click on the Science tab in the navigation menu, I still don't see it. But once I hit Publish, and it changes from private to published, then when I click on the Science menu in the top navigation bar, then I will see that now there's an additional option. So now I have this geology option, so I can jump straight to that. So that's how you would add things to that navigation menu. If you want to hide things from that navigation menu, then the way you would do that is, so say I want to keep this geology folder, I don't want to hide it, but I don't want it to show up here, like I don't actually want it to show up in the navigation menu. So while I'm on this folder, I'll go to Edit. And I'll give it a second to load the tabs here. And I'll go to the Settings tab. And there's an option here for Exclude from Navigation. So I'm going to click that and hit Save. And what that'll do is that will hide this folder that I'm setting it for from from all the navigation menus. So you would have to know that that folder is there to get to it, or you'd have to you could put in a link somewhere else to that folder so that you can get to it by clicking on that link, but not by going to it directly. And so you can see now when I click on the Science tab, the geology folder is no longer there. So one thing to note, or a few things to note, I guess, about this top navigation menu. I just added a folder there, and in the same way, any folder or any part of your site that exists at the top level, so you've got your main sections, and most of these will be similar across different libraries, like the kids and teens and the research and Espanol and news and events. Each one of these represents a folder that was created at the top level of your site. So it's just like home/folder. And any folder that exists at that level, unless it's excluded from navigation the way I just did, will show up in this bar. So one thing you want to be aware of is just that if you add a lot of stuff, to at the main level of your site, or if the stuff that you add has really long titles, then you run the risk of making your top navigation menu it span multiple lines. And it's fine, it'll still work, but it'll look a little messier. So what we recommend is that you keep the titles of your main folders brief, and then if you have lots of different sections of your site, maybe I guess our suggestion as far as the top navigation bar goes is to nest those within each other so that you don't have a lot of like individual folders showing up in that navigation menu just to clutter the header. Since this header will show up on every page of your site, so if it's really cluttered, then it'll start making everything look really cluttered. So that's so those are notes on top navigation menu. And as part of that, I was demonstrating publishing and hiding things. So again, if I want to actually make this geology folder private again once I've published it, then I can just click on published and click hide. And that will take it back to the private state that it was in previously. So it's hopefully straightforward. So one of the next things you might want to do, I know that for many of you, when you first log into your site, what you may see, and it may be disconcerting at first, is that you'll see a lot of placeholders for broken images. And so there's a couple of things that can happen to cause that. And so they're all fairly innocuous, easy to fix, just things that you want to be able to do. So first is if an image is in a private folder. So what that means, and again, a private folder, anything private on your site means that you have to be logged in to be able to see it. So if your images that you're using on your, like for instance, on your welcome page, like these ones here, if these are stored in a folder that's marked private, then trying to link to them on that page, you're linking to private content. So if you're not logged in, you won't be able to see it. And so to address that, you would have to either publish the folder that those images are in, or move them to a folder that is already published. And there are instructions on how to move how to move files between folders in the article on images in private folders and how to fix that. Another thing that could happen is that some images, the links for them don't import correctly when we're bringing your site over from Plinkett to Ploud. And so for those ones, what you'll see is you'll see the broken image box, and then if you go to edit on the page that the image is broken for, and you scroll down to your text editor, just loading, be just a sec. So say you have an image that's broken, and so instead of actually seeing it, you just see like an empty box with that little icon. So what you would do is you would click on it to select it, and you can go up here. So this button right here is the Insert Edit Image button, and when you click on that, it'll pop up a dialog that allows you options for the image that you've put into your page. And so if you've got a broken image and you go to this External Image tab and you see a URL that seems to be trying to point at an image somewhere on your site, but it's not finding it, you can actually look at the name of it. So, so for instance, this alternate text, like it says Chinook Libraries image. So if I, and imagining that this isn't there, then if I click into this, oh, sorry about that. I clicked the back button and accidentally exited out of the editor. So again, I'll go to edit, then select my image, click Insert Edit Image to open the dialog. And then, so imagining for a second that you see a bad URL here, but you can glean the file name that it's looking for from it. So if I go back to the image tab and I start typing the name of that, then you'll see it'll update those search results, and you can click on that to select it. And then you have this size thing right here that you can choose different sizes at which that image will display. So it's set to original usually. It'll display it in the page at whatever size that image is when you upload it to your site. Or you can choose different preset sizes that are smaller, and the ones that are listed here, these numbers are in pixels, so you can say the max size I want it to be is 200 by 200 or 400 by 400, whatever. So you can use those to change the way stuff is showing up on your page without having to like resize your image and upload it again on a different size. Like, you don't have to do that. So if you're seeing broken images, and if you're seeing a URL that looks like it's trying to find something on your site, then it usually will exist, and so you can just start typing the name of it in here, find it in this image tab, and add it there. And when you hit insert, it'll fix it, and then you can come down and hit save to save those changes. All right, so what are some other things that might be helpful? So far we've been talking about the stuff that shows up in the header and then in the center part of your page. So as I'm sure many of you are familiar with, the things on the left and right sides of that content we refer to those as portlets, and those are just kind of boxes where you can add information that may not be specific to that page, but you just want it to show up on the sides. So examples of that are like your a portlet to display the location and hours, like where your library is and when it's open. It's nice to always have displayed on the side. And then this navigation menu here is also very common to have. And you'll see a lot of the same stuff in this navigation menu as in your top navigation. And they are showing you the same stuff. And so you don't necessarily need both of them, but they're a lot of people find this useful. So if you want to add or change a portlet, and so there's lots of different options for those. You have navigation, you have text portlets where you can add in whatever you want to say. You have lists of upcoming events or calendars that will display those events, and places where you can put links to external websites. So if you want to add or change or remove something in one of those portlets, then whenever you're logged in, at the bottom of your page, you'll see this long button that says Manage Portlets. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the portlet management screen for the page or folder that you're on. And that will show you, so you can see these gray boxes along each side represent the portlets that are visible on this page. And so you can edit those by clicking on the title of them. So say I want to change something about the hours that are listed for my library. So if I click on this location and hours title, then it'll bring me to an editing page that will look pretty similar to the page on which we were editing other kinds of content. So you can see that we have a header field, and then we have a text box where you can put in wherever you want to. And then you have a few options for things that you do or don't want to display. And then you can just hit save, and it'll save your changes and take you back to the portlet management screen. And from there, and there's a lot of other stuff that you can do on this portlet management screen. We can spend more time on that in the future. I'll just say, like, if you want to add a new portlet rather than like modifying one that already exists, if you want to add one, then on each side of the page, you'll see this drop down, and you can actually select the type of portlet that you want to add. And selecting it on the right will add it to the right side column. Selecting it on the left will add it to the left side column. So you can choose a portlet, and when you do that, it'll bring you to the same editing page that I was just on, or whatever the version of that editing page is for that particular kind of portlet. And I'll just say text. So, and I'll hit save. And what you'll see is a new gray box, gray rectangle show up on the left side that represents that portlet that I just created. And so to see what that looks like on your page, in the middle of the page, you'll always see this return link. And so if I click that, it'll take me back to the page for which I was modifying the portlets that show up. So you can see that above my navigation menu, now I have this thing called a new text portlet, and it's the text that I put in it. So as I said, there's a lot of different stuff you can do with portlets. There's a lot of different kinds of them that you might be interested in using. And on our help desk, we have some general information. You can see there's an entire section of the help desk that is specifically on portlets, and you can learn some general information about like each kind, what it's used for, and then specific information about how to configure that kind of portlet. So that's stuff that it's a little bit more specific, more advanced, so I won't go over it right now, but you're welcome to explore those articles. And then if you do have any questions, we have, our forums and our support ticketing system are both available for you to use to ask questions, not just about like how to do something on your site, but even if the instructions for how to do something that we've posted in a knowledge base aren't useful, that's feedback that we welcome hearing, and we're glad to work on. If you're reading through those knowledge base articles and they don't answer your question, just let us know and we'll update them so that they will. There's a bunch of other stuff that you may want to be able to do. I just want to make sure I hit some of the highlights. So another big thing besides adding and editing pages, organizing your navigation bar, changing your portlets, updating your header and the image and the titles and stuff that you display. Another thing that I'm sure that a lot of people will want to do right away is add events to their calendar. So most of your events should have come over perfectly fine from your old site, but of course there's always new stuff going on. And so to do that, I'll click on News and Events, and I'll go to my library calendar. And pretty much everyone should have one of these, and unless you have a different folder structure than this on your site, which I know some people do. But it's a simple matter to create this if it doesn't exist on your site. So if you don't see it and need help with it, just let us know, and we can absolutely do that. So your calendar will look like this. You can see there will be dots on any day for which there is an event scheduled. And when I click on one of those days, it'll open up a little bar that will give me some information about what that event is, when it's happening. And I can click that again to collapse it. And I can also click on the event title to bring me to a details page about it. And so you can see that on the calendar it's showing up as knitting club is from 6 to 7, and then there's more details here about what that is. So where it is, who to contact, and then future dates on which that same event is going to occur. And so one of the things that you will need to do, and it's noted in this checklist here, is set up recurring events. And that's because between Plinkett and Ploud, they're built on similar systems, albeit a different version. And the setup for making an event on your calendar that happens regularly, like every month or every week or something, that setup has changed in its structure, so you'll have to recreate those recurring events. So to do that, if you're adding or editing an event, and so right here I'm editing one. If I wanted to add one, then while I'm on my calendar, I would hit Add New and go to Event, and it would take me to the same page that I'll go to if I click Edit on this existing one. And so from this page, you'll have a bunch of blanks that are hopefully fairly self-explanatory. Your title and summary, of course, then your event start and stop times. If you do check whole day, then it'll actually, I believe it'll make these time blanks disappear. That usually happens. Not sure why it's not happening there, but I've seen it happen in the past. But oh yeah, so like when you hit open end, you can see that the event end time disappears. But if you want your event to happen multiple times, like every month, then you can scroll down to the field that's marked recurrence. And if there is no recurrence rule, this edit button will say add. Right now there is one, so it says edit. So I'll click on this and it'll open up a drop down, or it'll open up a dialog box for me. And so here I can set, okay, does this event happen every day, a couple times a week, weekly, monthly, yearly? And then, it repeats every month on the first Thursday, which, I can change these things, or I can set a numeric day of the month that it recurs. And then I say, okay, well, it's going on for the next 6 months at least, so I know that, so I can put that in there. And then and as you're changing this stuff, it'll show you an update. It'll show you an updated list of the dates that you've selected for this to recur on. And if there's one that you don't want it to happen for, say the library is going to be closed that day, then this little trash can icon allows you to exclude specific instances of that event. And so you can see that I've excluded the one that was originally scheduled for January 7th. And if I want to undo that, I can just click it again, and now that's back. And say I want to cancel the October one instead. Then I'll click that icon, and then come down and hit Save. And you can see that my recurrence list has updated so that January is there, but October isn't. So, and then down here in the text field, of course, you can add new information about your event if you so choose. All right, let's see. So another big thing that I want to touch on, although I will be honest and say I'm not quite sure what the process will be for y'all's group, is changing your site's URL. So this is kind of a more technical and administrative task, but it is something that will need to be done for each site, because right now your sites are, the links that you got earlier, and you should have all received an email with your login information in it. Those site names are, some abbreviation of your library's name, .ploud.net, and that'll always be where the site is that'll be where the site is, and you can always get to it using that. But as I'm sure most of you are aware, like you have, there's various, like what we call vanity URLs, so that you can change the appearance of. So I know that there's a lot of like .il, .us, or what is, so you have things like crestwoodlibrary.org or greenup.live.il.us. There's different domains that those are set up as a part of. And so based on, and so right now those URLs, when you go to them, they take you to they're pointing you at your Plinkett site. And so once you're ready to quote unquote go live with your new Plowd site, then you would change your site's URL so that your custom domain name, that vanity URL, the one that you actually put in, because that's the one you're going to tell people to go to when they go to your library, that will stay the same, but you'll have to tell your domain registrar, which is the company that you got your URL from, or the organization who's administering the connection between your site and that URL. You'll have to have that point at your Plowd site instead of your Plinkett site. And so we have some instructions on how to do that in some cases on our site. So for instance, this article kind of gives you some information about what that'll look like if you're using GoDaddy as the host provider for your custom URL. But it'll vary from company to company. So if you're having trouble with it or not able to figure it out, then just log a ticket and let us know, and we'll do our best to help you get there. Either way, even if you can change it yourself, just once you've done so, we'd still like you to log a ticket saying, hey, this is the URL of my site. I'm going live with it. Can you make sure that your servers are updated so that everything works? And we'll check on our side, make sure that URL is configured, and then you'll be good to go live. So I know that there's a lot of other things to go over. There's a lot of things I've kind of breezed past or touched on briefly or something like that. We've got a few minutes left in here. I can go over some more stuff, but I want to open up for these last few minutes to any questions in case. I know I jumped around some. I was just kind of explaining things as I was thinking about them or as I was running into them, kind of trying to be natural in how I'm organizing it, but I know that may be confusing some of the time. So if there's anything that we've gone over that you're confused about, or that is a basic thing that you would like to go over in these last couple minutes, if you would type that into the chat channel, I'll be happy to go over it real quick. But I want to make sure that if there's any burning questions that we get to those. Okay, a lot. Do we have to go live on August 24th? That's going to be determined based on, so there have been hard deadlines for a number of our libraries, and that's been based on hosting of their old sites. So your Plowd site is up and active. So you or anyone who knows where that site is can go to it right now, and it's there. But for the moment, your old Plinkett site is still available also, and your normal URL that you're used to is pointing at that Plinkett site. So a lot of people have been, their Plinkett sites are no longer going to be hosted, and so they've had to make those changes and get their site up and running prior to that Plinkett site going away, so that they don't have no website for a little while. But I'm not sure what the hosting. Okay, so for Illinois libraries, then, because the sites will be available, that takes some of the pressure off, because your site's not going to disappear right away. So you've got some time to make those updates before that happens. Man, you hit that one right away. Yes. When you hover over events on the calendar portlets, it is showing in a 24-hour clock. There is not currently a way to change that. We've gotten several tickets logged about that, and I have pestered our developers to let them know that that's bugging people and that we need to fix it. So hopefully we'll be able to get that to y'all in the near future. I do apologize for that, for not having a solution for that yet. One thing I do want to show you, since we're talking about upgrades and updates at the moment, in the forum section of the help desk, there's an announcements forum, and in this announcements forum, you'll see that I've been posting site maintenance posts or announcements, and in each of those announcements, we're saying, okay, your site's going to be unavailable for a little while, and when it comes back up, here are some things that will have changed. Here's some functionality that we're adding or some bugs that we're fixing that you might notice. And so you'll start getting these emails fairly regularly. We're doing fairly regular updates right now since everyone's new into the system and stuff is changing. And so anytime one of those updates is being made, you'll get an email announcing it with a link to a post in this announcements forum that details out a little bit more what changes are going to come through. So hopefully we can be on the lookout for that change soon. Are there any other questions in these last couple of minutes? And so we will have, I have a couple more basics and introduction sessions scheduled for later this week. Susan, and are you, and this is Susan from, what was it, Homewood, I think? Yes, okay. I'll get with you about that. I think I did see that, and I think the reason that that's happening is that the portlets that were there previously were an older type that is no longer supported in Plinkett or in Cloud, sorry. And so we're going to have to recreate those, and I'll try and help you with that so that it's not, the burden isn't all on you, because I know that, as you mentioned, your staff have limited availability to work on this stuff. So hopefully I can help you get that resolved shortly. The rest of this week there will be additional sessions, and you can find out when those are. I did send out a link to the schedule that I'll just show you on the knowledge base. There's this upcoming webinars and live help sessions link, and you can see that this week we have a couple of more introduction sessions like this one, and we'll go over some additional basics and stuff for people who couldn't make it today or who want to go over it again. And there will also tomorrow morning be an open session, and I generally have these twice a week. And what that is that I'll be available for an hour here on joinme/Infold Systems, and anything that you want help with, or anything you're confused about, anything you want an explanation of, you can come and ask questions about that, and I'll be able to give you some live help or some personal instruction, whatever we need to do to help you get the answers you're looking for. So those open sessions are a valuable time. If you're able to make it, then you can get, I'll come and look at your site with you. Yes, so I have been having open sessions twice a week for the last month or so as we've been bringing people in. The last couple of them have been kind of slower because it seems like a lot of our users are getting comfortable with their stuff and they've made the changes they want to make. But I am expecting that as all of these, the Illinois population is coming online, you guys will have a lot of questions. And so those open sessions are going to continue every week. Right now they're scheduled for Tuesday afternoon and Thursday morning because those are times that I'm free. But if there's times that if a lot of people aren't available during those times, then we can work out some other ones that I can offer those at as well. So with that, and we're out of time for the moment. So I will post a recording of this session also in this same folder, this webinar recordings section of the knowledge base. And you can see that we've got a bunch of them posted already from Q&A sessions that we've had, and then some instructional sessions also. So if you want to review this, or for anyone who wasn't able to make it, you'll be able to catch it there. And I guess with that, I'll say welcome to Cloud, happy editing, and I look forward to hearing from you. Y'all have a great afternoon.